Let's go! Let's go! Don't you come away. Yeah, so do I, because I have all this stuff going on. It's awesome.
I'm gonna see how this sounds.
Next, we have Saturday opening remarks. Welcome to EmacsConf, where we have fun exploring just how much we can do with the text editor. There's a general track and a development track, but really, you'll probably find interesting things in both tracks no matter what your level of experience is, so don't feel limited to one or the other. The best parts of EmacsConf are the conversations. The wiki has a page on how to watch and participate, and I'll give you a quick overview as well. You can watch both streams at live.emacsconf.org using free and open source software. Using a streaming media player like MPV seems to be the best way to watch in terms of performance, but there are also web-based players just in case that's all you got. The schedule shows the general track on top and the development track on the bottom, so you can see what else is going on. As you're watching the talks, you can refer to the schedule in another window. Hover over the boxes to see the times and titles, and click on the boxes in the schedule to jump to the talks page for more details. You can also get the schedule as an iCalendar file or as an org file in different time zones. The org file has some links to talk resources and might be handy as a starting point for your notes. Many talks will be followed by live Q&A web conferences with the speaker, which will be done in Big Blue Button or BBB. These are indicated with a solid border on the schedule and by Q&A BBB on the schedule page. You can join the web conference room by clicking on the BBB link on the schedule page or the talks web page. Then you can ask your questions yourself when the Q&A starts. To improve performance, please keep your webcam off and stay muted until it's your turn to talk. If you don't like JavaScript, you can still ask questions via IRC and the hosts can read them out for you. We're probably going to automatically switch between talks and Q&A sessions, so the transitions on the stream might be a little sudden. People in the Big Blue Button room can continue the conversation even after the talk moves off stream. And you can also reach out to the speakers using the contact information on the talk page. Other talks will have Q&A via Etherpad or IRC, depending on what the speakers prefer. This is indicated on the schedule with a dashed border and on the schedule page as well. The schedule pages have quick shortcuts so that you can find out more about talks, open the Etherpads, and join the Q&A sessions. The watch page has more tips on how to make the most of Q&A. If you can, please add notes and ask questions in the Etherpad for the talk. That makes it easier for everyone to share their notes, and speakers and hosts can read the questions from there. We'll copy the notes to the talk pages afterwards. We have one pad for each talk, so you can follow the links to get to the next one or go back to the schedule and get the link from there. If you have general feedback about the conference itself, please put it in pad.emacsconf.org/emacsconf. You can also use this as a community message board for things like Help Wanted. Internet Relay Chat or IRC can be another great way to be part of lots of conversations. You can use chat.emacsconf.org to join the IRC channels through your web browser. The tabs on the left can help you switch between the different channels. There's EmacsConf Gen for the general track and EmacsConf Dev for the development track. If you need to reach us, you can join emacsconf.org or email emacsconf-org-private@gnu.org. You can use EmacsConf for hallway conversations. Once again, we're going to be streaming with open captions for most of the talks this year, thanks to our speakers and captioning volunteers. The captioned talks are indicated on the schedule, and with any luck, we'll be posting videos and transcripts and talk pages shortly after the talks start. If you need additional accommodations, please let us know in emacsconf.org, and we'll see if we can make things happen. If something goes down, we'll update status.emacsconf.org. If it doesn't look like we've noticed yet, please let us know in the EmacsConf or IRC channel, where we will be quietly panicking. In all of these conversations, please keep in mind our guidelines for conduct. You can find them on the wiki, and they basically boil down to, please be nice. Thank you. If all goes well, the pre-recorded talks and transcripts should be available from the talk pages shortly after they start playing, and we'll post the recordings of live talks and Q&A sessions within the next few weeks. Alright, let's get going. You might see Leo Vivier, Corwin Bruce, and Amin Bandali hosting the various tracks. I will run around mostly backstage, and you'll probably meet us in the closing remarks. That's also where we get to thank all the people and organizations who make EmacsConf possible. Let's have fun at EmacsConf! Next, we have Making Org Babel Reactive by Abhinav Tushar. He will answer questions via Etherpad.
Hello everyone, my name is Abhinav and I'm going to talk about how to make Org Babel reactive. So reactivity here means reactivity in the sense of reactive notebooks. So if you used Org Babel, you might also have used Jupyter notebooks, which are basically notebooks primarily for Python programming, where you have these text and code blocks interleaved, and then you can execute every code block independently, and then you control the order of execution manually, or you can just run the code blocks from top to bottom. But with reactive notebooks, what happens is that there's another way of running, which is basically by having all these dependent code blocks automatically get executed where whenever you make a change. So for example, if you change a variable, everything else that's dependent on that variable will be executed automatically. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. Right, so here's an example reactive notebook. So this is called Observable. Observable is this tool made by the creator of D3.js, which is a famous JavaScript charting library. So here the interface is very similar to Jupyter Notebook. You basically are having these cells, and each cell could be a text cell. Like here, this is a markdown cell, and then there are these code blocks. Now each code cell is basically defining a variable. This is important in reactive notebooks because each cell is connected to other cell via this variable usage. So here data is defined, then there's filtered, which is defined, which is dependent on data, and then this plot is dependent on filtered. So now in a classical notebook, what I will do is, like, if I change something here, let's say from 1 to 2, I will have to run this and then run this plot block again to make the change be visible. But in a reactive notebook, what happens is, like, I can just change this from some value to some value and then execute, and then every descendant is also executed, because that's how the reactivity works. You change this variable, so this should also be changed because this is dependent on this variable. Now, this is really helpful if you have a very complex and messy notebook, which is what actually happens in reality. You end up doing an exploratory analysis and you have these code blocks lying here and there, and then you change something, and then you have to just keep something in your mind that if I change this, I need to run these 5 code blocks again to finally get to the result that I want to see. And stale state is is a lot, causes a lot of issues in Jupyter notebooks. So this is really good for reactivity, for reproducibility, but this is also really good for just having this exploration that you're trying to do. For example, you're changing something and it's really easy to just see that change happening in real time in your outcome variables, right? So I was wondering how to introduce this reactivity in org mode, and here's how it will look like. So this is a demo org mode file. There are many org babel blocks here. So you start from here. Let's say this is a code block. It has a name, and then there's this another code block which is dependent on the previous one, as you can see here, and so on. And then finally there's a plot here, which is a GNU plot code, and you can see the image here. Now what happens usually is that if I change this value from, let's say, 113 to 112, nothing happens on its own, right? Like there's an extra step of execution that I'll have to do. So I do that, and then the value is changed. Now the problem is that only this value is changed, and if I go down and see the image, nothing will have changed. So what I can do is basically, one very simple thing is that simple trick is to basically enable a hook, like add a hook. Whenever you're saving the buffer, you just run the whole buffer again, like run all the code blocks automatically. Now if you do that, you can basically make a change somewhere, and then you can see how everything else is changing, which gives you some sort of reactivity, but there's still like a lot of computation that's being wasted. You might not want to change or run this code block again when, let's say, something down there is changing. So to counter that, you can actually add caching. So if you add caching to any code block, that code block will only be executed again if that code has changed or the input variables have changed. No, but the other problem is that you don't want caching to be enabled for a lot of cases where the code block is actually dependent on external state, like for example, some sort of randomness or time. So caching also is, kind of, it's like an important thing to use, but it's probably not giving you the complete answer. So what we can instead do is basically figure out the whole computation dependencies here. So let's say if I look at this buffer, here's how the whole all the blocks are connected. So as you can see, the plot code block is dependent on C, and then legend PG, and they themselves are dependent on these other nodes. So when I make a change in B, I only want B to run, and then C, and then plot. I don't want anything else to run. So what I did was I wrote a small minor mode for org mode, which it does exactly this. So whenever you are in a code block and you're making a change and then you save it, it will just follow the trail from that code block to every other descendant which is going to be impacted, and it just runs all of them and nothing else gets executed. So to see it in action, I'll just enable that mode. Yeah, right. So now here, if I change this 113 to 112 and I save, this code, this variable gets changed. It's the same value because I did not update it again. And you can also see B also got changed because it's just following all the execution order and so on. The plot also got updated. We will be able to see more clearly once I change something more substantial. So here's another variable. So I added a small toggle button here, which is again part of the minor mode. So since this is nil, if I toggle it, it will become true. And this variable dictates whether the plot will have the legend or not. So if I toggle it to be T, uh, now it's T, and you can see that the plot has legend that's visible. If I toggle it back again to nil, the legend is gone. Now this is nice. This already pretty helpful for me. But what we can do is like we can make it even better. So one of the nicer ideas from these reactive notebooks is this idea of having an infinite canvas. So where you don't look at the document model, you look at look at the whole document as like a canvas of multiple connected documents. So one good thing that happens there is that you can basically have a piece of code somewhere and then piece of code somewhere very different position in the document, but you can put them together in the canvas and then see them side by side. So here also, like let's say if I want to just have this image shown up at the top, let's say, what I can do is like I can pop this out, which opens a child frame, and then I can just go here, and this child frame is showing the same image, so there's no change. So if I toggle this variable here, you can see that the image is updated. If I toggle it back to nil, the legend is gone. And you can obviously, you can in make a lot of things come up as child frames. This is the same image, so even if you go down to the document, you will see the same image. So yeah, this is what I have right now. I'm definitely looking forward to like making it more useful, probably including more kinds of child frames, maybe like making the whole document an infinite canvas. All right, so that's the talk. If you're interested in the code base, here's the homepage for the project. So the next steps for me are basically making my workflow easier in Matplotlib, which is Python based library, and D3.js, which is for JavaScript. For the JS thing, I might have to add the interactive JS child frames, and I am also looking forward to like building something which can replicate the work of the observables infinite canvas, because that's something which I found really useful in my work with just JS visualizations. So yeah, happy to take questions on Etherpad, and thank you for your time.
Next, we have Emacs as a fully fledged reference manager by Vidianos Giannitsis. He will answer questions via web conference. You can join using the URL from the talk page or ask questions through Etherpad or IRC.
So, hello everyone, welcome to EmacsConf. My name is Vidianos, I'm a PhD student in KU Leuven, and today I'm going to be showing you how I managed to use Emacs as a reference manager, replacing what was for me Zotero to a fully fledged approach inside Emacs. So, what is my typical reference workflow? First, I need to find the literature, then I need to collect and organize it, which I originally did with Zotero, but now with Emacs-centered tools, such as Zotra and eBib. Then, I create a reading list. This is a new addition to my workflow that I started doing after moving this approach to Emacs, because now everything is well integrated. They have made a very nice reading list implementation inside Orgrom, which I'm going to be showing today. And then obviously I need to read the literature, take notes, organize the notes, and ensure that I am actually learning from what I'm reading. This is done through packages such as OrgNoder and Orgrom, and it's not going to be the focus of this talk. They already gave a talk about this part of my workflow, which I've been doing for many years now. And you can find that, or you can find many other people's approaches to reading literature and taking notes, as that is quite a popular, I would say, topic in the Emacs community. Lastly, I will have a short section about how I ensure that I can recall the knowledge from this literature very easily through this reference management system. So, how can we capture an article in Emacs? One most commonly known packages is GUI utils. GUI utils has a lot of useful things to do, and one of them is to capture paper, but you need the DOI, and for me that's a bit inconvenient, because what I want to do is that I have a URL here of a paper. I want to just copy this URL, not copy the DOI, and be able to save it immediately to my bib file. And that can only be done through this function, Zotra add entry. And as you can see here, there's also a Zotra download attachment. That sometimes works, but not always. I don't personally recommend it. But the problem is that due to articles being locked behind paywalls in many cases, downloading attachments doesn't work through Emacs, sometimes doesn't work through Zotero, sometimes you just need to go to the browser, say download PDF, and that's the only solution that will properly work. So, how do I then add this to the paper? And I need to find this paper that is here through IvyBibTeX. This is the bib file manager I use. There's also others like CTAR. I think CTAR has much better coding and integration with other packages, but I haven't really bothered to move from IvyBibTeX because it does basically everything I want perfectly. So I go here, say add PDF to library. I found it where I saved it, and it will suggest to automatically name it something which is in full integration with the rest of my Emacs packages, and all the literature management stuff knows to find it with this exact name. So it's saved, and now when I try to create a file from this, which I will show later, you will see that the file will already appear there. So, now let's go to organizing. So organizing in Zotero is typically done through a hierarchical folder structure. This is very familiar to most people and generally works, but being someone that takes notes using the Zettelkasten method, which has a fully flat hierarchy, nothing goes in folders, everything is in the same folder, and you find everything because it's connected to other things. And you have some basic indexes from where you can jump to different points. And I love this structure, so I also wanted to include it in my bibliography management, Because with folders you have problems like, okay, this article can go in that folder, it can go in that folder, and go in that folder. Where do I actually put it? Do I put copies of it in different folders? It's just confusing and not really practical in my opinion. So, try to do this approach inside Emacs. Now, with eBib. eBib is an amazing software built inside Emacs to reference manager, and it works absolutely amazing if you configure it to your liking. So let's open eBib first. This is the interface you will see when opening. Actually, by default you will not see anything, but I have opened 3 bib files. These are opened by default on boot of eBib for me. And these are my 3 main master bib files. This is the Zotero master bib file, which only Zotero can touch. If I change it, it will be overridden. This is my new master bib, where I save all the files that I have now started using after switching this approach. And then this is the master bib file for literature related to my PhD and things that I have already read. And it's a very convenient interface. There is also search. There is one searching tool, the jump to entry, eBib jump to entry, which searches through all open bib files for the title. So, for example, I can search for membrane fabrication because that's something I am currently doing. And go to this. There is another searching tool, the eBib search, which searches through the database that you're on right now, and it does a full text search, not only on the titles, but everywhere. So, for example, I see that in this paper, if I go to the abstract, I can search for the word FEIR, which is a chemical analysis, and it will tell me that it's here. And can it find it anywhere else? It cannot. That's okay. Let's search for something that we'll be able to find more easily. Like, for example, membrane crystallization, which is a main focus of my PhD. And then it will be able to find it many times, many times. And I can also search on the next database, or on this database, and see where is everything that I want. So this is different searching tools that are very useful. Then there's also another tool that is filters. So I can filter on any field, like for example, let's say on any field, and let's say I'm looking now again for membrane crystallization, and this will now filter to all entries. You can see right now there's 18 entries here that mention these 2 words together in any field. And sometimes this is easier because this is permanent. It's not like the search that you find one and then if you move you've lost it, you need to find it again. This is permanent until I say, okay, cancel the filter. So I mostly work with filters. I think they're the most convenient. And then there's also the eBib list recent, which is another very useful command. It asks you for a number of days, and it will show you the files that were added in the most recent. So for example, show me the literature files that were added to this bib file in the last month, and I will see 5 files. In this case, because in this bib file have mostly entries that I have read. These are the files I have most recently read and added here. While if I go, for example, here and say that these are files that maybe I haven't read yet, but I was planning to read. So this is something useful. Although for things I'm planning to read, I mostly use the reading list that I'm going to show next. But before that, a few more neat things that you can do in eBib. So I have a list of dependent databases. For ease, I have already opened them here. These, as you can see, have two brackets here indicating that they're dependent on PhD literature 1.bib. And these, in my case, act as the sort of index files where I'm tagging things based on the structure that I wanted to have in the organization. So all the organization is flat, all the literature is in PhD literature 1. However, I have this file that has 14 entries. I have another file here that has, let's say, how many? 20 entries. And these are smaller indexes where I can find things easier. But things are not limited to one of these. Things can be in all of these, or probably not all of these, but can be in 3 or 4 of these very easily. And how you add things is that I go here, and I say not R, it's M for the dependent databases, and I add entry, and you'll tell me where do you want to add this. So when I read a new paper, I can say, okay, this is related to these 3 tags, and this is sort of like, again, it's tagging it and it's putting it there, there, and there. And then this creates a flat structure that, however, has a great organization. Similar to how a Zettelkasten works, and I really like working with something like this. With dependent databases. And another feature that I really like, now a feature exists by default, but if I tag, this tagging is done through M, and I can tag different files here, and this is to do different actions with these together, such as, for example, copy them to a different file. With X, I can export the entry somewhere else. There's many things that you can do when you mark them. By the way, one of so is this function, which sees everything that I have marked and shows me an orgrom node fine entry that is filtered to just these files. And I can select one, and it will take me to my notes on this specific paper. And I find this very useful because I can be looking for something and I can say, okay, I remember, or I did some filtering and I know it's in one of these files, and now I want to see my in-depth notes on each one to remember where exactly I found it. So I find this kind of filtering, this orgrom related filtering, to be also very effective. So now let's finally move to reading lists. The reading list in eBib reminds me a lot of the philosophy that Emacs uses. By default, it is extremely bare bones, not very usable, but it is so customizable to where you can do anything that you can imagine through it, because the limit truly is your imagination. It's how much you can code into this that actually makes sense, and you can actually imagine it working. Besides that, you can do anything, really. So we can open eBib and try to find this paper that I just added here. And then we can create a reading list entry from it. And here, my reading list prompts me for a priority for this, how urgent it is for me to read this. It adds a to read, which is a to-do entry, which helps with organizing my reading list, because as you may also be able to see, this has an IDE, because this is an orgrom node. So the to read allows me to organize it inside orgrom. It saves the site key, the link to the paper, and also tags it with the parent file node, because I don't like having orphan nodes in my Zettelkasten. I like everything to be linked to at least one thing. So everything in the reading list is linked to the parent file. And now I can find this in the org node find menu. It's here. However, that's not very interesting. Practice, my typical org node find does not even include these reading list files because I don't really care to have them there. I have a special org node find that is designed to find these in particular. And here this has 22. These are the amount of files that are currently in my reading list. So for example, let's try and press here, and magically this prompts me to select a capture template, because what it's doing is that I selected this, and because of the side key, it knows that it wants to create a new node for that. So if I select the capture template, it knows that I want to create this new node for this. And now, if I for a second close the reading list, now I can already go ahead and take notes on this. This is org noder in particular, and it makes it all very easy because it's all integrated in one place. If I then close this and open a new Emacs, we have this, and the reading list allowed me to very quickly go from this being a reading list item to initializing it. And another thing that is very useful is that everything is sorted by priority. So I need to increase the font size again because I closed the previous Emacs. So here I can select what is high priority, what is low priority. I can also change the priority without needing to be in this file. Let's leave this file. And I can say, okay, I decided that this file is priority B, needs to be A, it's more urgent. And in my system, there's 5 different priority levels. You can get away with less, but I like to have the very much low ones, as this is not urgent at all, but I want to keep it somewhere. A is very urgent and B is urgent, but just below A. And then the C in the middle is just, I will eventually read this, but not something I want to focus my attention on right now. So this is mostly about reading list. I can also, so for example, I have this. If I finalize something, if I read it, for example, I created a note for this new thing. Let's say I finished reading it. I want to remove from my reading list. It's also just one command, and it's done. If we now return to the presentation, the last thing I want to show is annotations. So for annotations, it's the idea that sometimes you just need to find something in eBib quickly. So I'm here, and I'm looking for something. I said I'm here, and I'm looking for something. And as you can see, there's a note file everywhere. The note entry, which is a very, very small description of things that I want to remember for this paper. So I can be scrolling here or scrolling in one of the smaller files and saying, this was in this subsection, and which paper was it? And I can scroll, read all these notes. Each note takes like 15 seconds to read, and really decide, okay, it was this paper that I wanted? Good. Now I can open the note for it, go there, and it's very easy. So, I think that's all. I would like to thank you for your time. I would love to see your questions, either in IRC. I maybe have already answered some of your questions there in the Etherpad, or right now we're going to the live Q&A, where I'd love to interact with everyone and have a discussion. However, if you don't have any questions right now, but you have a question later on, feel free to send me an email. My mail is also on the site. And if you're curious how all of this magic worked, feel free to go to my GitHub and see the EBIB section here. That will also be linked in the top page, where you can see all of the configuration that I have done in EBIB for everything to work. Thank you again, and have a wonderful EmacsConf.
All right, I think we are live.
Great.
If you want to go ahead and pull up the Etherpad with
Yeah.
questions.
So, yeah, the first question.
You want to share
I
your
already
screen?
answered. I can
Yeah.
share the screen also with
Thank you.
the pad. Mhm.
Also, thank you for your talk.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's see. Let's get you all started here.
Yeah. So already answered the first one.
Oh,
Here
I'm not
about
seeing your
the,
screen at the moment. Sorry.
uh,
Do
is
you
it-
want to share it or should I share it?
I think I'm sharing. No,
I currently am not seeing it.
let me
Yeah.
try again. Okay, so now, yes.
The progress. I'm so excited. All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on mute now because we are very short staffed. But if other people would like to join, you can join using the talk page for the big blue button URL. And then you all can come in here and ask your questions as well. So you don't have to just stay with the Etherpad. Anyway, I will turn it over to Vidianis and you can take it away.
Yeah. So the first question: have you tried Ivy BibTeX or BibTeX completion on how it compares to eBib? Well, I would say that I use both. I don't think there is very much a comparison, because for me, they're achieving different goals. Like when I want to just very quickly find the paper in the entirety of the literature, I can just go here and open Ivy BibTeX and see it. Bibic now needs to parse my bib files, so it may take a second. Yeah, so if I want to just search, I'll do this. If I want a bigger view, then I can open eBib, but I don't use eBib so much as a tool to find just one literature. I use it for other purposes, so I think they're not really mutually exclusive. Like, you can use both, and I don't think that the features that one provides are something that the other also provides. They're different kind of goals for me. Also, for the answers, is it okay if I don't write anything now and I can just write them after when I have time? Now just talk.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll transcribe all the answers later, so you can just go ahead and talk.
Yeah. And do you find showing abstract on your navigation panel helpful? I always delete the abstract info in my bib files to make things more concise. So for me, I think it is helpful to see the abstract. I think that if you're in a regular screen, you have the space to have that. And yeah, for example, if I go again here, it's kind of indeed a bit longer than it can be. And also, if you find a bigger abstract somewhere, it may be more space. But like, for example, this is a big abstract. And for example, yeah, this takes a bit more space, but I find it easy because the only case where I'm actually looking at this panel and trying to see things is when I'm going to be trying to find something that I don't remember the title to search immediately. And if you don't remember the title and you're trying to search, the abstract will be a way that helps you search better, maybe. And also, the other thing I use is also the small little descriptions I add in the note entries to help me. But I think that the abstract is nice to be there in case you don't remember to find something from the title or from your notes and just need something more general. So yes, it can be large and not always convenient, but I generally like it being there in case I need it for anything. Then the next question. Oh, also, if any question is not fully answered by what I'm saying, feel free to add more to your question and we can discuss more. I don't have a problem. So for the next one, yeah, I copied these from IRC because I preferred to answer it orally because it's a bit longer than the others I was answering in IRC. So it seems that there's a meta problem here. There's too much information. And does this tool reduce the cognitive load? Well, for me, it does reduce the cognitive load because indeed there's a lot of information, but that's how managing literature works essentially. Like, it necessarily has to have a lot of cognitive load because you are trying to process more information than your brain can process to begin with. So you really need a tool to help you not keep everything in your mind, but process the information externally. And I do think that the way I do this, for me at least, it does help with reducing cognitive load because I'm here, for example, if I'm looking for something, I do not remember. I've read most of these papers not too many months ago, so a lot of them are recent. If I don't look at what I have written for it, I do not remember anything. So indeed, you have this kind of cognitive load that I cannot remember everything. But on the other hand, I think the tool helps because my notes are what keeps what I want to remember. So it doesn't stay in my mind, it stays in the text. And regarding things like the reading list, I think also for me reduces the cognitive load because I will mostly remember what the papers I have in that list are, but just sorting them by priority helps me say, okay, this was the thing I wanted to do next. Also, sorry. This is the thing I wanted to do next, and I didn't have to remember that this is what I want to do next. I just had it, I saw it there. So for me, it reduces cognitive load, but the problem of too much information is 100% there because there's objectively too much information when you're working with literature. That by nature. And yeah, essentially that's for me the thing that I'm just putting this information elsewhere so I don't have to keep it in my mind. Okay, so when you download a new article, how do you integrate the file to the database? So for example, do you remove and rename the file manually? So for me, I also briefly saw that in the talk, but I did that very quickly, so it's understandable that it wasn't there. Essentially, when I download the article, then I will open Ivy BibTeX and find the article for example, this one is the first. You can open the menu in Ivy BibTeX. It's with Alt O, and then it will give you this menu. And from here, it will say add PDF to library, and then it will ask from where do you want to add it. I don't recommend the URL because it doesn't download it properly sometimes. As I also mentioned that with the Zotrap, the URLs downloading things, especially with academic papers that are sometimes paywalled, it doesn't want to work well. So I will download the paper, and then you can just press the F here for file, and then you find the file. And for example, for me, all my PDFs are in this folder. It's still named Zotero PDFs from when it was Zotero saving them. Now Zotero no longer saves them, but I'm too bored to change the name. And then you just find the paper you want. So you can see there's an endless list of papers here. And it then will automatically rename it to have the title of the author, small title, and date. I believe the naming is also configurable, but I have this notation in my config for many years now because that's how everything expects to find it, essentially. So I do not then move it. It's stored in that folder. I store all my PDFs in that specific folder, and then Emacs knows that all PDFs should be found in that folder, and it then just looks for the name that it expects to find, and Ivy BibTeX has renamed it automatically to that. And okay, I'll wait a bit to continue with that for moving to the next question. Yeah, Ivy BibTeX has that functionality. And then annotations with e-readers, viewing and taking an Emacs or Raider touchscreen, highlighting in notes, Noter, I think would be an alternative, ebook annotation alternative. So I do not use an e-reader personally. The only thing that I have is my tablet. I can actually show you. It's this little thing here. It's a Chromebook. The reason it's a Chromebook is that when I bought it a few years ago, it was the most viable alternative I could find that can run Linux as a tablet with good touchscreen. That was also a bit budget because there are some Linux tablets, but they were a bit too high cost for what I was looking back then. And this thing runs Linux essentially natively from the Chromebook, and I've installed Emacs there. It has all my config, and so for if I want to take touchscreen notes, and that I do it there. But again, that is in Emacs, so and it's mostly with PDFs. So I'm not sure if it answers exactly the question. So for if it's an e-reader, if it's for example a book, I know that if you have an EPUB, I think it's called the format for books, and OrgNoter can also read that. So you could also open that file inside Emacs using OrgNoter and take notes. But otherwise, if you're not reading everything in Emacs, then it's hard to pass annotations from outside Emacs to inside it, because of course you have less interoperability in that case. But I think Emacs is featureful enough to where you can do all your reading inside it. And OrgNoter has a surprising amount of different formats where you can read things, actually. I hope it was clear. If you want more on that, because I know it's a bit more a complex question, I guess, also with e-readers. And if it is an Emacs or not, feel free to add more. And how do you feel about making notes on websites, PDF, videos? So I will agree with the other person that answered here. That if you can convert something to PDF, I prefer it, because then you need to only worry about PDFs, and it works better that way than having to annotate websites. There is, I believe, I should have it in my bookmarks somewhere. There is the Orgrom protocol that allows you to take notes directly out of a website, and it saves all the metadata of the website. I did look at it at some point, but I haven't really continued using it too much, because I find that I don't often take notes from a website where I want the more information than just either the link of the website, or if I want the full text converting into a PDF. So I haven't really found a very big use case for it, but I know that Orgrom protocol is a thing. And then for videos is a bit of a longer story, because if you want to take notes on videos, that's a bit more complex. And I don't know of a way to do it in Emacs, but I also don't know of an effective way to take notes on videos using other tools. What I typically do if I'm following a video or something is that I will take notes of the more important things. I'll take notes of the more important things that I was listening in the video, and while I'm listening, I will take some ideally crude notes, not because I don't want to lose a lot of my attention during the what I'm trying to learn by taking very good notes. So most of the time, those kind of notes will be in paper, even just very simple, crude notes, and then and without any timestamps or anything, because that's too complex for what I've done. And after watching, I will try to consolidate all my thoughts that I wrote down into some more permanent notes using Gorgrom. And then like move on with that. Also look online if I noted that I want to look more on this subject that was mentioned in the video and I didn't fully understand it, then I will try and look more and things like that. So for me, that's how I do it, because I think that annotating a video directly with timestamps and everything is a bit too complex. I don't know if you have any suggestions for working with that, but for me, it has been very troublesome. And then how do you add a new article from scratch, a PDF that you did not have in your bib file? How do you generate the bib entry, metadata, and abstract? So yeah, the package is called Zotra. I can also show it again. Let's find something and can open up. Let's not do that. If I open it, I need to access it through my institution. So I will not open the link, but I can show you. Essentially, you run a Zotra add entry, this function, and it copies what you have currently in your what you have already copied. Right now, it's the message I copied before for the Q&A. But if you open a paper and have the URL copied, it will immediately come here and will save everything. And also, as I mentioned, you can also download attachments from there, but with paywalled articles doesn't always work well, so I just do it manually. Oh, system is running low on power. Give me just a second so the computer doesn't turn off as we're speaking. Yes. So yeah, everything is added from scratch. Essentially, you copy the URL and give it to Zotra, and it does everything. When you fact check every details for a bib entry, your author names, published journal, DOI stuff. So I generally don't do that. Oh yeah, thanks for the person that added the link to the Zotra. I wouldn't say that I fact check the details. I assume that when they're added, they are actually correct. Have you actually had trouble with a tool that automatically adds them to add them wrong? I'm curious. I haven't really heard that happening too much. I've always thought that, yeah, if you do it manually, you need to fact check that you did it correctly. But I always assume that if you do it automatically through a tool, it should already be correct. And I don't remember ever having any trouble either when I was using Zotero before or now with more Emacs-based tools. I feel like the bib entries are copied correctly. I haven't noticed this being incorrect. But I'm curious if you have any point on that that I will keep in mind.
Sometimes DOI records are not exactly correct. For example, they can contain some very strange symbols. So that can happen sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I guess then if you want to fact check, it's probably best to do it directly as it is added. Like it's added, for example, here, and you can just directly when you add it, find it and say, is everything correct here? Because I think that if you leave it for later, it will be much more of a mess. So for checking, I would just do it directly after I add it to the bib file. And let me see, is there anything else?
I think one common way it can fail is when the metadata includes HTML tags for math, for example.
Okay.
And in some papers, for some journals, it can happen. So then you can imagine what happens when you try to put that citation into your references. That's going to be a mess.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know, to be honest, so yeah. Thanks for the information.
I think our graph has automatic cleaning of certain things for common errors in the metadata.
And how did you call that? I can note it down also here for the
Oh, our
discussion.
graph. Our graph.
Or graph. Yeah. Okay, okay. So I will also put it down in the pad. And I think the next the live will move in the next minute anyways, and I see we're done with all the questions. So thank you everyone. Hope this was interesting. Thank you for giving.
Next, we have Org Gmail, a deep integration of Gmail into your org mode by Bala Ramadurai. He will answer questions via Etherpad.
Hello everyone, my name is Bala Ramadurai. Today I'm going to be talking about org Gmail. That's something that I put together. This is what I call Gmail meets org mode, and they get along too. Let's talk about email and how to manage email via org mode. This project is a 4-year overnight success. It was in 2021 I said, hey, wait a second, it'll be so cool if you can integrate Gmail with org. So I started trying out new things, and immediately I realized this is much larger project than I thought. So it lived in somedaymaybe.org for about 3 years. Enter 2024, AI arrives, and in 2025 I had a working prototype in 24 hours flat. So 3 years and 364 days, nothing much happened, and one day it actually got it working. Sometimes procrastination is just waiting for the right tools. The real title should have been org mail for people who like org mode more than email, the Gmail monster that has always been attacking us. Okay, but we still have to deal with email. One of the most common questions that I've got so far, why not News or MU4E or Not Much or other tools? They are amazing. Use them if it works for you. Absolutely. Just go right ahead if it works for you. Don't change anything because this looks cool. Well, the honest answer for me is that they want to be your email client. That's not what I am after. I don't want an email client. I have enough email clients already. I don't want one more. And they require 500 lines of config. I've tried it. It's a lot of maintenance for myself. I still have those somewhere, the Move4E config or the News config. They struggle with Gmail's labels, threading, messages and deletion. I find it tough. And it's either all in Emacs or nothing. It cannot be a combinatorial approach is what I realized. So I said, why can't we have both? I want the org mode's focus and Gmail's flexibility. Org Gmail philosophy is very simple. You triage in Gmail, use the fast web UI for the easy stuff, and process in org mode, pull important threads where you do real work. And of course, a two-way sync is possible. Changes flow both directions. Big inspiration has been org gcal. I named it org Gmail because I saw org gcal. It was so cool. I really wanted it. Think of it like an org capture for email, but just bidirectional. Alright. The architecture, the boring but important slide, is that Gmail interacts with Python via an API and interacts with Emacs Lisp. User commands, org formatting, all that magic is done on the Emacs side with Lisp. Python side handles the Gmail API, OAuth, JSON wrangling, and Gmail API handles the actual email data. You can do pip install, add to the load path, and 10-minute OAuth setup. You're all set. Now switch over to demo. From Gmail to org, how do you go about doing that? I will start off with a demo folder that I have. It has this tree structure. Ignore the tilde files. So this is what it contains, an org folder with all the working directory, the actual where the life of org mode is. And I have a credentials.json. This is for logging into Gmail. This is a file that you can download. The instructions are in my README in the repository. You can find out how to get yourself a credentials.json. It's not very difficult. Once you have these, you're all set. All you need to do is, if you have Straight or any of the other VC packages ready that you can take a Git repository and have that in your folder, you can do that. Or you can do it like this, have a Git clone like I'm doing it right now. Just clone it, keep it in, and now you will see that the Gmail is already there. There are two files that are really ultra important, which is email label manager.python and org gmail elisp. These are the two files that do the email processing. I have a plain vanilla Emacs that I'm going to use for the demo. These are a few settings that you will need in order to get going. So So one is the Gmail itself, the eLisp and the Python script. You will need to require the package. The org agenda files need to be set. If they are already there, then yes, it needs to include the org files. Main settings are you need an org file in order to download all the emails from Gmail. You need the credentials path, you need the Python script, wherever it is pointed to that. The date drawer, you can customize it to whatever you want. I call it org Gmail. You can set it to ignore certain labels, not to download it. You're not interested in certain labels being downloaded, you can set that and process timeout of 300 seconds. These are some things to keep life sane in this plain vanilla Emacs. So I have this refile targets and stuff. That's the main org Gmail settings are all here. I'm going to eval this buffer so that we have all of it and we are all set. So we have org Gmail ready to work right now. The first thing I'm going to show you is org Gmail download by label. This is the demo Gmail that I have. They all have some kind of test emails and I'm going to label them. I've created this hierarchy of labels here based on Tiago Forte's para, project area, resources, archives, structure, 1 project, demo project 1, 2 areas, demo area, 4 archives, 2025 old project. I have labeled them inside my Gmail. Okay, now let's go to Emacs and we will now download these things. But before downloading them, you will need to authenticate. So for that, you can start with any Gmail command. So I'm going to take org Gmail download by label. When I press that, it immediately opens a session in my browser. Okay, what you can't see is a list of my Gmail accounts that I'm going to select. I'm going to select my one Gmail account and I'm going to show you the next screen. So in this screen you will have to continue and select and the authentication is completed. So once this is done, you can close this, come back to Emacs and you will have select Gmail. So it has tab support. If you click tab, it will tell you what all labels are available. I can pick any one, project / demo project 1, and let's see what happens. It starts downloading and it downloads and all 3 messages, 4 messages, 5 messages, 6, 7. There are 11 messages in total and it's downloading all of them. Demo /org /0 inbox, that's where I have it. And here are the emails. They're all in org mode format. All the emails are in here. Since it's org mode, you can fold them all and you will see those emails. So these are 5 emails that are present for the demo project 1. The next one I wanted to show you was reply without leaving Emacs. Let's go back to Emacs. How am I going to reply? Or Gmail reply at point. That's how I'm going to reply. Reply all or reply. Okay, let's first find out what is the email all about. Okay, there's just one sender with just one recipient. So the reply all or reply doesn't make a difference. Okay, so we will reply at point, and if it's reply all, it includes my own email as well. In this, my email is .mx. Okay, CC, I can CC anybody I want, but I won't do that. I have a Gmail reply window, split window here. Control C is what will send the reply. Control C, Control K is what will cancel the reply. I want to reply, so let's say test reply from within Emacs. And bala@balaramadari.net should receive this email. Okay, initial successfully. Reply sent for this email ID. Okay, a feature request I can already imagine is the reply also appearing at the bottom of this. It's not yet there. In the next version I will have that. Let's check if I have sent that email. Let's check in the sent box. I just checked in the sent and yes, a test reply from within Emacs does show up. Okay, great, that works. The third demo is going to be on label management. How do I manage labels? Let's see. Let's go back to Emacs. Suppose I am not keen on this demo project 1 for this. It should belong to demo area. Okay, for this thread itself doesn't belong to this. Let's do org gmail edit label at point. Well, I don't want one project at all. It should be under 2 areas / demo area. I don't think it's not tab supported. You should know this. That's another feature request. 2 areas / demo area, and when I say this, it should update it. Yes, it has updated it. So you can see that it has updated the label here as well. We can go check if it has indeed changed it in our, what is the name of the email? It's test mail for one project demo, and the date is at 3/12. Let's check if demo area has it. It's not refreshed, but there are two emails now under demo area. It's obviously done the job well. It's happening as expected. I just turned this back from demo area to demo project 1. If you decide that I want to move all of demo project 1 to archive, I'm done with the project. Oh, by the way, you could, that's the whole point of this, is to have all of this refiled into your project. You can do that. I don't know if I have that. Yes, I have demo project 1, and I could have emails, and I created a node and I moved everything there to that folder, so that when I want to look at the demo project, let me look at this. In that context, in the project context, an email, I have notes, let's say, and one of the emails is a note, and I want to be able to keep it that way. I could refile it and put it under notes as well, saying that this has some password, it has some reference that I need to have it there. I can have it under notes as well. So that's the advantage. Once it's inside the org mode system, you can do many things that are usually org mode Z. So you can do all of that within your org mode with emails, manipulate them, see it under a context, reply to that. All of that can happen right within your project context. So you're done with this project. You want to move to archive. So what you need to do is, you don't have to be here. You can do it this from anywhere. Bulk movement of labels, you can do it. If you had consult, embark, IV or helm, this will show up as a drop down and it looks neater. This, I'm using a vanilla Emacs, so this is what you will see, but it has tab support. You can use that. So I want to transfer project / demo project 1. I want to move it to archive. So let's say for archives is the folder. So archives / 2025, already set this up. I have not created this label in Gmail. So do I need to go back to Gmail and create that? No, not at all. You can do this from the comfort of your org mode. Go in here and enter this. Let's see what happens. So it found that it is not there. So it created a new label, and it's now moving all of the emails, all of those threads into archives without deleting project 1. So it still has project 1, and it also updated the labels here. So the project has been moved. If you want to move it to archive, this entire, you can do that too. Let's see if it has archives. Yes, it has archives, and I have a heading called 2025. My demo project can be moved there, and I'm done here. My project was done. All the emails are moved to archive. So is this project from my project folder. You can integrate it into your workflow, your org mode workflow. Next, you have action commands. What all can you do with singular email? You can do 4 things with single emails: delegate, defer, act on it, or trash at point. Defer doesn't seem to work yet. That is, the snooze part doesn't seem to work yet. That's another bug. That's the second bug I have in my package. But the rest of them work. Delegate is to move it to somebody so they can do the job. Act is you will do it with a context, with a to-do, which will show up in your agenda. Trash the email from your Gmail, and you're done. Okay, let's do that. Let's go back to Emacs. I just moved everything back to demo project 1. I moved everything back so that I can demonstrate the 4 actions that I'm showing, at least 3 actions. One of them doesn't work yet. So if I want to delegate it to somebody, in this case myself, but I can delegate it to anybody I want. So how do I do that? So I can delegate this. So delegate is delegate at point, move the cursor to the email, delegate it to this guy balaramadurrai.net. You can add a note saying, hey, act on this task quickly, boss is watching. Okay, so you can say yes, and this thread gets forwarded to your colleague, and so that they can take this up. It has indeed arrived. Here you can see boss is watching. The test reply has also arrived here. You can also see that email. So that was delegate. So how do we set up actions? So let's not mess this email. This is the second email. How do you act on it? That's an action you set for yourself, is add action at point. And you do that. What action can you set for yourself? Write a long report using an LLM. Okay, so it's changed the status to a to-do task, and the to-do is right here. Now here you can schedule it to say tomorrow 9 a.m. So there you go. At 9 a.m. I'll be looking at this. Now here's the cool part. You can actually find the whole thing in org agenda. So my entire email threads are all in the org agenda. They're all present here, and my task associated is also here in the agenda. This is marked to do, which means I haven't acted on that email. It's still pending. And what do I have to do is right here, within here, which is the action that I have to carry on in the demo project 1. You can see that demo project 1 is showing up in the bot. Okay. It's a cool way. You can also see it in the agenda. I am not interested in this email at all. Let's say I want to delete it. Let's see. Yes, I finished the task. Now the task is finished. I really don't want to see this email, this message alone. All right, easy peasy. Let's do Gmail trash at point, and you say message. I don't want to delete the entire thread. Yes, delete it. Delete the message alone, and it's gone. But it's not gone. It's gone to the trash. The entire subtree is deleted, and we have a clean flow here. I have archived it. It's still in the archive, but it's still active according to my Gmail folder. Next I'm going to show you is real workflow capture. You can use label in email with two process, download it to the inbox.org and do one of these. You've already seen that. Later still doesn't work. I will get it to work hopefully by the time the conference is up, you will have the feature up and ready. Rest of the stuff works. Delegate works, trash works, and add action works. Your weekly review can have an email context, not just links to an external URL. In the para or project areas, resources, and archive structure, you can have Gmail labels mirror your para structure. You can have that within your org mode structure, and you can mimic that very well, all the emails embedded in your own structure. And you can download it by label in the place you want. I'm still working on that feature where you can have it inside the project structure itself rather than an index.org. It will take some time, but I will do it. But right now you can refile it once it's in the index.org or any other file you choose. And then you can bulk move labels to archive and move that entire project repository to your archive also. That works very well. And your org files and Gmail stay in sync effortlessly, and the whole email part of it becomes part of your knowledge management system. Okay, we have reached the end of the demo. Hopefully you understood what org Gmail was all about. If you have any questions, let me know. But some bits of warning I wanted to give you what this package is not. It's not a full-fledged email client. It's meant for label management and importing some emails that you wanted or you're interested in to the context of your projects or areas or your GTD context. It is not a replacement for news, no4e or not much. It is not a way to read all your emails in Emacs. It cannot handle a large server load for sure. It is not offline capable. It needs API access, so bear that in mind. What it is a bridge between Gmail and org mode. It's a way to manage important email threads. So you can keep updating threads. Whenever there's a reply, you keep downloading it to that thread. If you want to keep track of what's going on, what is the logical way, you can all see it. You can even use eLlama or one of those to make sense of the conversation if it's a longish thread. It's a power tool for the getting things done or Diego Forte's Para method. I've used Para for a long time now. I'm a power user of Para, so to speak. So I find this extremely useful myself. It's about 800 lines of Python and about 300 to 500 lines of eLisp. It's usable in 10 minutes but can remain powerful for years. So some technical decisions that I took. Why Python plus Gmail API? Gmail API is better at handling than an IMAP with all the other metadata. I found it easier. Python has excellent Google API libraries. Email calls Python via the call process. JSON is the interchange format. Why not pure eLisp? For one, Auth 2.0 flow is a bit complex. I found it a bit complex to meander around. That's probably why it took me 3 years, 364 days to get over it. Email API client libraries are mature, easier to test or debug separately, and lets Emacs do what it does best, which is text editing. Pragmatism over purity, the Emacs way since 1976. Okay, some roadmap here. But near term, I want better error messages. It still gives me Python error messages. There are some asynchronous operations. There's no blocking going on. It needs a search integration soon. Attachment, I have not yet touched. That's a big if. I don't know how to integrate with org attach. I'm still wondering how to do that. Perhaps I should be able to interact with Outlook also, Fastmail, ProtonMail, I don't know. AI summaries of thread, I'm thinking eLlama could do it, but I'm not very sure. Calendar integration is a nice idea, but org gcal and org gmail, how will they interact? How will that work? I'm still not sure. I use them separately. And any other feature requests that you may have, just let me know. What I may need help with, if you have the time and you're interested in this project, is to test it on Mac OS and Windows. I use Linux, so I use it on Debian. It works fine. OAuth edge cases, I'm not sure how it works. It shows me some error or the other here and there. Definitely documentation needs improvements. Other email provider expertise will be welcome. What's ready is GitHub repo with issues. You can start with that, could be great if you can tell me some issues with that. Some kind of development guide. I'm not a programmer. I vibe coded most of it. So a development guide, a true blood developer, if they can come and tell me here is what you should be doing, I'm more than happy to listen to that. And probably a test suite, I do that manually, all of this, some kind of help with that will also work. The big picture is org mode and Gmail can be friends. They can bond over a cup of coffee. Let's connect. Here are my details, and I'm all game to listen to your question and answers. I'm happy to give you any answer or responses that I find. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I have my website here, and please do fork or install org Gmail and let me know what you think. Let's talk about taming email. Thank you very much.
All right, I think we're almost done. Hang on a second. Okay, I think we're on. Fantastic. The recording is started. Okay, you may take it away. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, everybody, you can join this. This is now a live Q&A session instead of just an Etherpad Q&A session. So you can join the Etherpad using the links on the talk page, and you can ask Bella your questions, and you can keep going even after he is unceremoniously yanked off the stream by my very enthusiastic cron tab. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity. I'll just look at the first discussion and feedback. I first of all want to address the feedback. You're absolutely right. I should have stuck to one theme. Unfortunately, I was using vanilla Emacs and not my own config. So to show that it can work, apologies for that. I will keep that in mind the next time I do such a demo. The first question, I mean, the feedback was consider using similar background, dark only or light only throughout throughout to help with eye strain. The first question is, should I know all my contacts' email address by heart, or is some kind of contact list? Unfortunately, right now, this is just to get started. So it is, you have to know it by heart. But I take this as feedback. I will write this down for myself as a feature request. I will make sure that org contacts or some kind of tab support is present for email addresses. I do not use the org system for replying so much. I use it for knowing the context. So I don't really reply using the org mode itself to reply. So I did not focus on that feature, but this is doable. We can certainly add a tab support for any contacts that you may have, org contacts, or I don't know if there's any other package that does that. So if it is, let me know. Org contacts is what comes to my mind. The second question is, what would it take to use the org pieces of this with offline IMAP or other non-Gmail mail setups? I use Fastmail. Currently, I use only Gmail because that's my workflow, and it works with a Gmail API. So which means the Python script that goes along with it only works with Gmail and no other system for now. This is the current package. However, yes, I will note this down. I don't know what it will take to include this offline IMAP setups or any other non-Gmail setups. Let me tinker with it and find out what it will involve. So give me some time, maybe I will get
Sorry,
this
what did you
going.
say?
Sorry?
Sorry, I hear you typing on BBB.
Oops. Okay.
All right.
One of my many windows. Too many windows
Okay.
open.
May I continue?
Hi, Bala. Yes, please. Sorry for the confusion.
Hi, Amin. All right. So the next one is, do you worry about sending some info to a wrong person due to some unseen technical issues, for example, due to memory overflow? Again, I have not been focusing on replying from within Emacs so much or using my package. I usually do it through the Gmail interface. I usually use this to get the context within the project, download all the emails, make sure that I have acted on emails which Gmail doesn't do so well. I don't know what the action is. I don't want to use Gmail as a to-do list. Org mode is great at this. Any work I have to do, any reports I have to compile, all of that org mode does. I don't use it for replying or doing its actions around the email which I focus on. But point taken. Let me see if there is a like Gmail offers. For 10 seconds or something, you can still undo so that it doesn't go out of your email if you made a mistake, or if there's a problem with your Gmail or the email sending should sort of stop. Let me think about that. So I have not paid attention to that, but I'll take your point. The next one, wow, you should say what Gmail is and not its goals and non-goals, which in this case is more helpful to help people get their head around this. You had some good ones in your slides, but not your GitHub page. Okay, great. Okay, so I will definitely take the information from the slides and give it to, put it back into my README. It's been a while since I updated README, and you're absolutely right. It probably doesn't say why you need org Gmail. So that would be definitely something that I can do. One thing to add the goal is an easier way to add one-off email into org mode and org agenda workflows and first. Love seeing a different way of looking at and working with email. Thank you so much for that. Yes, that's the idea here is if we can integrate email, and I think there is Emacs. That's one package that I loved. It can integrate all of the other stuff into your org mode. That worked, but I like email and dealing with email. That is my single source of truth outside of org mode. So that's the only one I need for now. So, and I like seeing the action and the history on my org agenda. That's one of the reasons why I built this package. And I hope that answers that. There is one more saying, how does it handle attachments? If it doesn't, do you have a plan to add this feature? Attachments is a bit tricky for me right now because I don't understand org attach so well. I don't use org attach, but you're absolutely right. It does make sense to have org attach also, and it's definitely in my plan to include org attach. I don't think I talked about it in my talk, but I definitely have that idea. First, I had to wrap my head around the idea of org attach and how it, because what I don't like about org attach, I'll tell you, is default is it opens a new folder called data, and it uses a unique code, and there are subfolders in it, which I do not appreciate, because I want all those files also to be within the same context of my project or area. And that's one of the reasons and I'm sure you can customize that. There are ways to do that, but I have to pay more attention to this. Right now, all of the attachments are dealt with in Gmail, which is not a good system to handle that, because it's so out of context, and there are like 25 contexts in the same inbox, which I do not appreciate. So the inbox, even the attachments are like that. But org mode has a much better way of handling it, or Emacs has a much better way of handling it. I will definitely put my attention to this and get this feature out. This is all customer feedback for me, so to speak. So I would definitely request all of you to try it out and tell me, good or bad things about the package. And you've been very candid so far. Please be so be it that be candid with your feedback, and I will get to know how to go with this. With so much, I mean, I'm not an expert in ELISP, but I have a workaround, which is I have generative AI support, which has done well with me. I test the software better, so I can use the generative AI to help me with the coding, but I can test it so that it works for me. And I would request your help also in testing this software. So for sure, thank you so much for your question. If there are any more, I can definitely answer them.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and thank you, Bala. Yeah, we have, I think, about another minute or two before the stream moves on to the next talk.
Okay.
But yeah, you're more than welcome to stay here and keep taking questions from the audience even then.
Sure. We'll hang around here.
Awesome.
Next, we have Reading and Writing Emails in GNU Emacs with News by Amin Bandali. He will answer questions via web conference. You can join using the URL from the talk page or ask questions through Etherpad or IRC.
Hello, my name is Amin Bandali, and today I'd like to talk about reading and writing emails in GNU Emacs using GNU specifically. GNU has had this sort of reputation of being difficult to approach and configure, and that's understandable because it has many options and major and minor modes that interact in different ways with each other, and it also doesn't help that GNU started originally as a newsreader rather than a mail client. So a lot of the terminology that it uses is also rooted in that, in reading and writing news. But nevertheless, with this video and talk, I hope to provide a sort of very quick introduction of starting to use GNU to read and write email and send it. We will use GNU's IMAP support mainly because a lot of people these days have email accounts with mail service providers that support IMAP, which is an open standard. So it's widely available and supported across many different providers, as well as mail clients or mail user agents as well. Okay, so let's just jump straight right in. So I will enter this demo directory that I created for the purposes of this demonstration and change my home directory to this one so that we can safely experiment with GNU here. So yeah, for this presentation, I've written up a quick initialization file or init file that I will share afterwards as well. To get us going with GNU. There's not much to it at the moment. Just set up the package archive and install the keycast package for showing the key presses in the mode line. Yeah, that's about it. And I also define a little inline function plus emacs.d that allows me to conveniently write and have it expanded or refer to files and directories rather. Paths that will get expanded inside my Emacs configuration directory. I also have this eval last s expression bound to a global key so that I will be able to easily use it for this talk. Okay, let's jump right in. First things first, don't panic, and that's actually also the name of the name of the very first node in the GNU manual when you open it. And it's actually nice. I definitely recommend that you look through at least the very first couple of chapters of this, skim through it, and later on refer to it whenever you find something confusing or don't understand it. But yeah, we'll start with these two paragraphs here. So a GNU installation is basically just a list of one or more servers and the subscribed groups from those servers and articles in those groups. And you can already kind of see where that influence of a newsreader comes in. But yeah, basically what it's saying is that, we have one or more servers. We can think of them as email servers. Groups can be we can think of them as folders or directories. And yeah, articles, those would be our email messages. And with GNU, we can add and configure servers mainly using two variables. One of them is the GNU select method, and the other is GNU's secondary select methods. The first one predates the second one, and I generally don't recommend using it because first of all, it can only point to one server, and that server, because it's the primary, then GNU won't add a prefix to its groups. So later on, as you get into more advanced features of GNU, and for example want to write rules to modify your message composition in a way for certain groups, or like file mail, automatically classify mail, this distinction can become like confusing and annoying. So yeah, my recommendation is to always and only use the GNU secondary select methods. Yeah, so let's do that here. I'm gonna uncomment this portion. So here I set the primary select method to nil, and the second one I define an IMAP server of the IMAP backend, and I give it the name EC25 GNUs. And what I wanted to do is to connect to my mail server, which is at this address, and fetch emails from it over TLS with this username. And then the passwords or the credentials, you can put them in the .auth info file. Normally you would want to, like, for example, encrypt this file with your GPG key. But for this demonstration, I haven't. So yeah, the format is the keyword machine followed by the name of your GNU's like server or account, followed by the word login, then your login username, and then the password, which here it's not shown. Yeah, but before we actually set this, I'll just show you that if we like start GNUs with MetaX GNUs, initially it will just show an error like this. Even if we continue, it's empty. There's not much because GNUs doesn't know where to fetch these emails from. And that's what we will configure. So, excuse me. Yeah, so just for convenience, we can bind GNUs to, for example, Control-C-G, as I've done here. You will want to set your name and email address, like so. And here we tell Emacs that we were going to be using GNUs for reading email, because Emacs comes with other email clients as well, such as Rmail. And in fact defaults to Rmail, so this way we tell it to use GNUs. And by default, GNUs puts its user.c file and other files. I believe it scatters them in a few different directories in your home directory, so it's a little bit messy. So what I prefer to do is to just put it all under the GNUs directory inside of my Emacs configuration, as I do here. Yeah, and then here we just tell GNUs to don't try to bother with a generic news.rc file that would be shared with other newsreaders. We just want to use it for email, and yeah, so we just tell GNUs to keep all of its data inside a dedicated .newsrc.eld for Emacs Lisp data file instead. And we can also have GNUs not prompt us when we want to exit with Q. So yeah. Anyway, so let's go ahead and evaluate this. So this has been set. So if we type MetaX GNUs again, or hit Control-C-G, now we're faced with an empty buffer, and it says no news is good news. And that's actually one of the characteristics of GNUs, is that by default it tries to sort of declutter and show as little as possible in the group buffer, meaning that if you don't have any groups with unread or marked or starred messages, it will not show them. To actually see all of our groups or folders, we hit Shift L or capital L, and we see that we have an inbox here, as expected. So we enter the inbox and we see that there is an article there, and it's already been marked as read. But if we mark it as unread and exit and enter GNUs again, this is what we would see. We would see that our group, and when we enter it, we see our mail here. Yeah, and this is our very first email that we read in GNU Emacs here inside GNUs. it might be useful to have GNUs always show certain groups or folders, even if they don't have anything unread or marked inside of them. And the way we can do that is by setting this variable GNUs permanently visible groups to a regular expression that describes the name of these groups. So if we launch GNUs again, this time we see that that group is visible even though there's no unread messages in it. When we enter here, when we enter a group or folder, we will see a list of all of our messages. Here we only have one. We can press Meta U or Alt U to mark something as unread. You can press D to mark it as read. If you press just U, it'll tick the article, which is kind of the equivalent of marking the message or email as starred in in other email clients such as Thunderbird. And we see that when GNUs, when there are groups that have starred or ticked messages inside of them, GNUs will mark them with this little star here, or asterisks. Okay, so this talk is just barely scratching the surface. Let's see how am I doing with the time? Okay, 11 minutes already. Okay, just a couple of helpful things here, like this in an IMAP record commands variable. It's useful when you want to debug your IMAP setup with GNUs. If you set it to anything non-nil, it will log the commands that it runs to a special like star IMAP log buffer. And here I just set it to this init file debug variable, which is set to non-nil whenever you launch Emacs with the --debug--init switch. So that's pretty helpful. You want to also set your sent folder, like basically where GNUs will save a copy of the message that you just sent. Normally, I think the convention these days is a lot of servers and clients use a dedicated send folder, but with GNUs I just prefer to use inbox itself, mainly because then I will have threading working for free, so I can read the entire thread of an email chain there in one place. Of course, we don't have to keep the messages in there forever, and in fact GNUs has facilities, both manual and automated, for expiring emails into different locations or different folders. So let's move on here. Topics are another nice feature of GNUs. So this is useful for creating some topics and then classifying or grouping your directories there. So we will see the use of this in a moment, where let's say I want to add a second account to GNUs. This one I'm going to call AC25 work for, let's pretend that this is like my work email. So if we open GNUs now, we see that our work inbox also shows up here. And because we enable topic mode, we see that we have these sort of buttons like GNUs and MISC here, and we can, I believe, create a topic with capital T N. We can call it like personal, this one. Let's create another one, work. And then what we can do is go over the directory that we want, for example, this one, hit capital T M to move it to the personal topic, and this work one, move it to the work topic. So we can nicely classify and group our groups folders here, which is especially useful when you have hundreds of them. Anyhow, we can customize different aspects of message display. Like for example, we can this way customize and change the order of which headers we want to see and where. So if I launch GNUs and go back to this email here, these are the headers that we see at the top. Excuse me. And with GNUs, we can always have it. We can have it show all the headers by pressing T to toggle the headers. This is here we can see all the nitty-gritty and all of the headers in the message, and we can toggle it back with T again. Yeah, we can modify and customize the sorting with dedicated sorting functions. Comes with a number of them out of the box, but we can define them as well. Now to send emails, let's see. We will be using message, and that's what GNUs itself uses. So I will set things up here. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, we want to have GNUs mark the messages that we write to others as read automatically. So this option does that. And then we define posting styles this way, using the prefix, the name of the IMAP server. And this is how we can tell it to use like what email address for the from field and which SMTP server to send it with. Yeah, and then GCC is where GNUs will save the copy of the messages that we write. So if we go ahead and launch GNUs again, we can go into our personal email here, hit M to compose a new message. We can prepare an email to, let's say, our work address. Hello from EmacsConf 2025, GitHub stock. Hello, this is just a test. Yeah, and we hit send. The sending will be done using GNU's Emacs's built-in SMTP libraries. Sometimes it can take a moment. Okay, that's it. It's done. So if we go back out and if we hit G to get new news, we should be able to see our new email there in the other accounts that we just sent it to. So we can come here, open it, and there we go. There's a lot to configure in GNUs, and we're just barely scratching the surface, and unfortunately I don't have the time to explain all of these, but I do plan on doing a much longer running series, whether it's text or videos, showing how to configure and use a lot of these different aspects of GNUs. But yeah, here near the end, just a couple of quick things. I find that it's nice to have message prompt us for configuration that we do want to send a message. It's actually, when it does that, I take another look over my email to make sure I don't have any like typos. It's generally a good idea to wrap your messages around 70 or 72 characters. So we do that here. We can tell GNUs to forward messages as proper, like as a proper MIME part, instead of like some half-broken way. This customization, the send mail function, is how we tell GNUs we tell GNUs with message to use the SMTP library to sending the email. And these two variables are useful for omitting our own email address when we want to send someone, like when we hit R to reply to someone. If we configure these variables, then GNUs won't add our own address to the to or CC, which is pretty useful. I also find it helpful to unbind Control-C, Control-S. That's another key for sending the message, and because Control-C, Control-D, which is very close to it on the QWERTY layout, is useful for like saving a draft and then coming back to it. I don't want to accidentally hit Control-C, Control-S and send the message prematurely, so I unbind it. Yeah, anyway, that's about it. That's a kind of very quick tour and introduction of setting up GNUs. Here we just configured a remote IMAP server, but we can also, of course, set up a local IMAP server such as Dovecot and point GNUs to there and use programs like offline IMAP, I believe, or the MBSync program from iSync package or iSync project to synchronize our messages to local mail directories and then point GNUs to it. And the reason we might want to use that is to always have a copy of our messages at hand so we can use offline. And why use NN IMAP specifically? As of now, the NN Melder, the Melder implementation of, or the Melder backend for included with GNUs is very inefficient, especially when dealing with like tens or hundreds of thousands of messages, like some of us are. It just takes an eternity to like try and index them and get going. So in that case, what I recommend doing is instead of interfacing directly with Melder for GNUs, just install and run Dovecot, a local IMAP server, and point GNUs to that. I will. I plan on writing tutorials or doing videos about these other aspects of configuring GNUs after the conference. That's about it for me. So I hope you find this helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at bandali@gnu.org or at kelar.org. You can take a look at my personal website where I plan on posting other Emacs and GNUs materials. And thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Take care.
Almost there. Oh, you started recording already. Hooray! Okay.
I did.
Let me check. Give me a second. Boop. Okay, I think we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Sasha. Hey, y'all. Hope you enjoyed that. For Q&A, I'm hanging out on IRC. I'll also open and check the pad as well. And of course, you're welcome to join here on Big Blue Button as well. Also, I will drop a link on IRC to the talk page on my personal site where I share the sample init file that I use, and like a sample auth source, auth info file for like the credentials. So. Okay, I have the pad open. I'm going to share my screen or try sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so first question. I noticed that it took a considerable amount of time to send email. Is it possible to configure GNUs to use an external SMTP client to send emails? Right. Yes, it definitely is possible. In fact, in the past, I've used, I believe, MSMTP, which is a small SMTP implementation that's independent of Emacs. So you can do that. It's also possible to point it to have it use the sendmail binary on your system if you have a local MTA mail transfer agent like Exim or Postfix installed and configured. I believe that should also dispatch and like return instantaneously, and then have Postfix or Exim deal with sending the message on their terms without blocking Emacs. Yeah, and I don't know, it depends. Normally, it's not always that slow. Sometimes it is. I think it also depends on the load on your mail server. Sometimes it's instantaneous, sometimes not. So yeah, hope that helps. Let's see. Is the Dovecot workaround actually a solution? I haven't tried it, but if it works smoothly, I'll surely do so. It is. It really is. I've actually been using that setup for many years. I can't remember. I believe it's Eric Abramson who first shared instructions on how to set this up. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Yeah, this is it. I'll share this on IRC as well. Yeah, so Dovecot is very, very efficient. It's written in C, yeah, when you point GNUs to an IMAP server like Dovecot, dealing with email is pretty instantaneous. This article or post by Eric is great, although I will say that there was a recent major release of Dovecot. I can't remember if it's 2.4 or 2.5, and it's a breaking change. They change a lot of the configuration syntax, so there's a high likelihood that this drop-in configuration won't work, even though that's what I used as my starting point a couple years ago. I will be writing an article on my personal site to go over how to configure recent versions of Dovecot for such a setup, for a local setup. Let's see. Do you have experience with Mu4E or not much? And why would you say GNUs is worth using compared to these? I do have experience with these, although it goes back many years, and I'm sure both of these have evolved since, and they were great pieces of software in their own rights. And actually, I did use them in that order. I first tried Mu4E in Emacs when I started using email in Emacs. Then I tried not much for a while, and then I went to GNUs. They're great. They have pros and cons. Mu4E, I believe, has excellent maildir handling directly, if I'm not mistaken, unlike GNUs, so you can point it directly to your maildirs locally, and it should work fine, if I'm remembering correctly. Not much is also excellent. The thing with not much is that it uses Zapier for indexing and searching email. It's tag-based, so you can tag messages. And then, yeah, it's amazing for tagging and searching capabilities, very powerful search features. And my reason for trying GNUs and then, I don't know, eventually liking it was a couple of years ago, I went through this kind of phase of trying to use and stick with packages that are built into GNU Emacs as much as possible. No particular reason that I would recommend people do that per se, but yeah, that's just what I wanted to do, because I noticed my configurations were growing unwieldy. So I, like many others, declared Emacs init file bankruptcy, and configured things from scratch and tried to use whatever that Emacs had to offer built in itself, and then only reach for a couple of external packages here and there. So that's how that's how I ended up on GNUs, and it's been very nice. I've tried a few other email clients since then, temporarily. I tried Arc, AERC, which is not built into Emacs, but I don't know, I keep coming back to GNUs. It's great to have it all, to be able to do all these things from within GNU Emacs. Let's see, some notes and feedback. Thank you for all the kind words, folks. Appreciate it. I'm glad that you found the presentation helpful or somewhat useful. Let's see, new question. Oh, and I will check IRC as well. Let's see, at my organization, we're forced to use OAuth with Outlook, and they've also blacklisted all email clients except Thunderbird, but they don't support it, only the webmail or the Outlook app. Do you know if this is something that can be circumvented in GNU's? Let's see. So if I'm pretty sure, at least with the recent Emacs versions, GNU's does support XOAuth as a backend. So I think you should be able to do that even with just the things, the machinery built into Emacs. Even so, I think there are external packages and programs. One of them, I think, comes from this Cyrus IMAP world of things that implement like XOAuth. So you should be able to do that. You should be able to use that to get authenticated to your organization's mail server. But I've never tried that myself. In terms of like blacklisting all email clients, I don't know how they would do it outside of this kind of authentication thingy. If they check the user agent header or something, that's pretty easy to customize and set. With GNU's, you can define a posting style to set a custom user agent. So yeah, that's as far as I know. Thunderbird is pretty nice too. Like I reach out for it sometimes when I'm in a rush, don't have the time to like set up GNU's with like some new like IMAP server or something. I reach for it sometimes, but yeah, I primarily use GNU's. I see. So the question says they tried it with not much and it never worked. Even Kmail on Android didn't work. Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can like provide maybe more details as to like what doesn't work, or if you get any particular error messages, or like how they're trying to like prevent you from using it, then maybe folks could have some ideas of maybe how to get around that. Yeah. Let's see, I'm going to go over and take a look at IRC. Yes, scoring is great. In its file bankruptcy, they have mail to use Outlook from GNU's. Right. Yeah, there are various like solutions and workarounds. Yeah. Let's see. How's the schedule looking? I think the next talk is going to start pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I believe that's about all the time that we have on the stream for the Q&A, but of course I'll hang around here on Big Blue Button and IRC for a while if folks would like to ask more questions. And also feel free to email me, bandali@gnu.org or @kelar.org with any questions. Thanks again for the kind words, folks. Appreciate it. Yeah, I myself also wish that there were like some tutorials or something when I was getting started with GNU's, but we didn't have that. So, and I've been meaning to like record a talk like this for years for EmacsConf. But yeah, funnily enough, after like 10 years of at my 10th anniversary being involved with the conference, I finally put together a talk of my own to talk about configuring GNUs.
Next, we have LaTeX Export in Org Mode, The Overhaul by Pedro A. Aranda Gutierrez. He will answer questions via web conference. You can join using the URL from the talk page or ask questions through Etherpad or IRC. The recording button, so I remember.
Is not sessions recorded.
I accidentally resized the screen. Okay, don't panic.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. This is definitely not the sizes. Okay, it's okay. It's fine. OBS is still live. Okay, I think you can go now. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Good afternoon, morning, or evening, whatever it is in your time zone. I'm Pedro Aranda, and I'm going to be talking about what I've been doing with the latest backend in org mode and the different and the way it treats fonts. Just a couple of words before I'm going to go through motivation, the evolution, and get you an idea of what you can get from the feature branch that I've started, and give a couple of demos. Actually, my motivation is I was using LaTeX currently and OXBeamer as the foundation for my activities, mainly for lecture notes and lecture slides. So I came from pure LaTeX and Beamers, and for me, the real cool use case, or I would say this was the killer use case for me, was I have a programming lecture, which is sort of a Python 101. And when I'm live in the lecture, I can go, and if the pupils ask me, I can modify code, show modified code and results on the fly. And that's something that really impresses the kids and makes them understand what we are talking about. From my subjective point of view, mainly in OXBeamer, some of the things that I was missing is that emojis would really break the monotony, and I missed them, the support for emojis and stock Beamer themes. And some fonts I also found were suboptimal or difficult to adapt in case they need an adaptation. So, for example, people who need special fonts because of their special capabilities, it's difficult to get those fonts from the stock themes and from the stock font implementations you have there. So requirements on from the Emacs side to do this is none, because basically, okay, the only thing I want is to work on a vanilla Emacs, which is more or less recent, because yes, I'm a bit of a freak and I compile it every 2-3. I get it from master and compile it every 2-3 days. And Yahoo, I had to change to NeoMac, and I'm able now to get my vanilla Emacs with M4. So that was a big accomplishment in this last days. What is the evolution? I mean, my personal evolution and my take at LaTeX was I put everything in a LaTeX file, and I input it through the LaTeX header, and that's it. But that was not very beginner friendly. And once I had some people interested in this, oh wow, I can modify the code on the fly and see the results on the fly. It was more difficult for them to give it a go. So I just because there are people who have not that much experience with LaTeX, and it can even be a bridge to introduce people into LaTeX. So in any case, it was not very beginner friendly, and I had complaints on that. So what I think was we can do better. My first attempt was something that was completely neutral to Babel or polyglosia, and it was basically for font LaTeX, although some of the things can for Lua LaTeX, and some of the things can also be used with ZLaTeX. So overriding template fonts and taking into account fallback fonts was something that I learned when we started this conversation. And the only problem with this is that fallback fonts only work for LaTeX, and because Lua LaTeX, because ZLaTeX doesn't support them. Actually, fallback fonts is a Lua feature. There was already something in the list regarding script detection, which helped me a lot. So big recognition to Juan Manuel Macias for that, and for his publishing the algorithm or the script in the org mode mailing list. And then came my sort of little nightmare, which was when we started talking about internationalization or localization. Looking back, I have a very strange feeling about a blurring target there. Because the reality, being very, very frank, did I need it? Really no, because I just needed to add Spanish with Babel, and that was it. Well, actually, for me, it still is. And you can put the British, German, or Italian. It continues to be true for me. So personally, I had little interest in doing that, but I took it as a challenge, which has shown to be really tough. So what do you get from the feature branch? The feature branch adds font management for font spec, which is not strictly needed when you are on Latin, Cyrillic, and Greek scripts, as long as the fonts in your template support them. But again, it's a nice way to get a better support here. You don't need it if you're happy with the fonts you get from the templates that you use both for Beamer and the document classes in LaTeX. So if you don't want to use alternative fonts, you don't need it. But you would need it if you, and of course, if you don't want things like, for example, emojis or need emojis, you really don't need full fonts. So my idea is that the next thing that you can add is Babel and polyglosia for enhanced localization and multilingual documents there. And at the end, my vision was that the keywords involved would be language with the main language. And then nice idea from Ihor was to put all the secondary languages there too. Then specify the LaTeX compiler, and then what I've added is a keyword which is LaTeX multi-language, can be font spec or Babel or polyglosia for localized documents. By default, this thing is nil, and when it is nil, you get the behavior from org mode that you already are used to if you don't want to switch. And Yonghong was there, and I was chirped into the conversation, and I'm really helpful, and a big thanks to him, because he also had an easy idea to support Chinese and Japanese documents, so that the only thing that you need is to add the language that you're going to write your document in. Very, very big thank you for that, because that was really a challenge, not being able to decipher what I was coding there, in terms of, I have a document, I copy and paste it from some place, and from there I get my answer. I get my PDF, and I compare whether it is correct or not. So, what is behind the scenes? I've always suggested that in order to use the feature branch efficiently, you create a file with the default values you need for your variables, and that's this famous .locals.el files. What I do is I have a generic one in my home documents directory, and this is used for all the org documents that are in subdirectories from there. Why? Because normally you will not be changing your font that often. And if you need, you can always go and have your configuration locally. So it's this point where I'm collecting my font configuration. And for me, this gives me a very, very nice quick start for new documents and presentations. And there you can even compile your configure your LaTeX compiler and font language management too. So you have everything in a file. And the other nice thing for that is that you can also include that in a subdirectory. And if this subdirectory is something that you're sharing in a project with other people, you are already configuring the, say, quote unquote, corporate look and feel for your documents in that project for everyone, and no one else has to care about how this document has to be configured. One of the things that I really like in this approach is that it is a grow as you go. So, for example, you can start with something like that, which is I have my font, my basic font for main, which is the serif font, for sans, which is the sans serif font, for maths, and for the mono, with some features like to make them scale. This is something that is provided by you through the font spec package, and you're happy with it and you work with it. And in a given moment, you go and you have your own problems and or your own challenge, and you need to have, for example, emojis for one of the fonts. And what you do is, in this case, you just add the emojis as a fallback font in the font that where you want to replace. This is what I'm doing right now for this presentation, and you will see. You can always, as I've said, you can always have your dear locals, and you can copy that into a working directory which needs special adaptations or has special needs. And from there, you have that directory with your modified or customized dear locals.el file. So font spec is normally enough, but sometimes you can't control all the fonts with font spec only. So, and there you have a Polyglossia and Babel coming to your help. This may also be the case that you are working in an intended language. I don't know which, but an intended language, and you wanted to see how that was configured, and you went and you found a latest example that used Babel or Polyglossia. The exporter provides you three variables to variables to configure both font spec, Polyglossia, and Babel. So, just as an example of how I picture this, is you find it in the internet something like that, something like this, because you have your document and you need Thai. So, and I found an example in the internet that tells me that I'm going to be using Babel. Main is going to be English, and I'm also going to have Thai. And then they tell me that for English, I'm going to be using Noto Serif for the main or the serif font, Noto Sans for the sans font. And then when I'm writing things in Thai, I'm going to be using Noto Serif Thai and Noto Sans Thai. That's what I see in the internet. So what you can always do, what you would do in this case is I'm going to get and map the font configurations from the LaTeX into this variable. Things that you have to take into account here is, for example, the language. The language here is Thai. You have the language that you're intending this font for is Thai, so this appears here. In case you don't have any language, like in the first two lines, we just say that the language is nil, which is the language for the default language. The other thing is, in my example, in this example that I found in the internet, I have my properties for the fonts. In this part in LaTeX, and I put them as properties here. So that's the whole idea behind the feature branch. The Babel provide part is generated or is also integrated from the org header, mainly from the languages, mainly from the language line, and we have a variable in case you need to tweak it. But normally the defaults provided by org are good enough. So what is the rationale behind my take at LaTeX font management? And that's something that might be something very personal. When am I using FontSpec? I'm using FontSpec when I'm with Lua or XLaTeX, and I want fonts that are different from those specified in the LaTeX class. That's point number one. I will also go for FontSpec when I need to support scripts that I'm missing in the fonts I use, and I can use fallback fonts for that. I have to, the only limitation I have here is the following. All languages must be left to right. And if you don't say anything at all, the LaTeX backend assumes that you want the dates, standard names for the abstract, and so on in American English, if you're using them. In many cases, you're not using any sort of abstract table of contents and so on, and you don't need that. Important thing is maybe date management, right? So if you need dates, headings, or anything in any other language or locale, then yes, then you need to use Babel or Polyglosia. Choice depends. You can use Polyglosia or you can use Babel, whatever you want. Also, in some cases, it will depend if you've been researching a bit of how this is done with pure LaTeX. It will be also depending on the examples that you get. So, what can you, when you are using Babel or Polyglosia, what do you have? You have your dates, your headings, and so on. You might need to control the text in the sense that what passage is written in what language. For example, for things like hyphenation and some ways of writing the hyphens in direct speech and things like that. And the other place where you need either Babel or Polyglosia, and you will see that because all examples that you can get for LaTeX in this case is when you have a language that uses right to left alignment like Arabic, Hebrew, and others. So one note of, I would say, care is you always use the font, if you use Unicode fonts that include the scripts you need, that includes the scripts that you need, you will have done that will be a great leap for you because that simplifies the configuration a lot. Now a couple of demos. I don't know if you've noticed. First demo is that I'm using fonts that are not the official fonts in this Beamer template, which is, by the way, Morilla. This would be the first thing. So I've been using other fonts, and they are, at least from what I get in class, they are more readable than the official than the default fonts in Polyglossy that you get in Babel for the Bordia theme. Another thing is what I've told you. I have my own things like emojis. Now, if you allow me for a second, I'm going to switch to the Emacs, which is running behind the scenes to show you what. Okay, fine. So this is the presentation that I have here. And as you see, I'm using Lua LaTeX and just font spec. Given, I don't know why I would need this. This is an English presentation, but just to show you what you can do. If I go back here and I go to the beginning of the presentation, and now what I
Well, I don't think you're showing anything.
Oh, thank you. Okay, this is the presentation, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to show the full screen. And in this full screen, you see the presentation on one side and you see Emacs on the other side.
Oh, still nothing.
Yeah, we're not seeing your screen at the moment. Sorry.
Thank you for the share. Now
it's starting to come. Okay.
Okay.
Yay!
Fine. Fine. So this presentation, I've done it with Lua LaTeX, and what I had here is font spec and English language, just to show you that with the same configuration, with the same font spec configuration, but adding polyglossia. I just have enough with adding polyglossia with the Spanish language to get my dates correctly. And this is something I'm going to see the date in English. And if I now go and recompile it in a couple of seconds, you will see that the data is in Spanish. We are using the same, which I can show, by the way. You see, just by adding polyglossia, I can get my dates in Spanish. What I've included the dear locals in the slides, but just to discuss it a bit more, I have it for all the presentations. I think it was here, no? For the demos, for all the presentations I use for Emacs conferences. I have it, and it's something like this. Actually, you don't need a fallback for the main font here because the presentations are done with the Sans font. So the only thing that I would really need would be something like this. This can be commented, and the same happens here with the mono. This can be also commented. And the only thing where I would really need a fallback font is here. And what this is telling you is that you have a fallback for the emoji script, and you need to use the Apple Color emoji font with a modifier, which in this case is that you need to have the half-burst renderer. That's the only thing that you really need. Where do I get all these things from? All these things I get from the different parts and from different scripts in the internet. I also have a couple of other things to show. For example, first of all, I do not need this. This is a letter that I've been writing this morning, and I'm not using the fallback font, the feature branches at all, because I just needed a sans font, and it's going to be a letter that I'm writing in with a sans font, and the only thing I need was Spanish polyglosia for the date. Anyhow, what was my first thing that I did with the backend back in, I think it was April? We had this comes from the mailing list. We had someone who had this problem, right? And he wanted to add emojis, and he had problems with the verbatim font. And that's how everything got started. If you now go and I get my PDF LaTeX for that running, well, I actually, all my LaTeX exporter for that. This was what I showed in one of the Emacs org mode meetups. And there you see that we had the emojis, we had the fonts for the different things, we had maths, and you could even go and add scripts and little passages and different scripts. And this was done with the same principle that I have my main font, I have the emojis, and I have my sans font, and I have the emojis, the Han for the Japanese and the Kana for the Japanese, so that these characters here, both in the sans and in the serif passages, are included correctly in the PDF. And a third thing of what you can do, I've also shown this, so this is more for people who have not seen it. This is a side-by-side passage of, well, actually the beginning of the analysis by Xenophont, both in Greek and in German, with some comments. And if I go, this is done with polyglossia. So if I go once again and produce the PDF for this, just a second. Come on. There you are. You get this. And there you see different fonts. Which fonts am I using for this? I'm using for the main font for me is free serif. This listing is produced with Deja Vu Sans Mono. And using polyglossia, I'm able to go and define the Greek polytone for the variant, for the serif variant with the noto serif font, just to differentiate it from the German text. And nice thing is that both in the German text, you see, for example, here, and with the Greek text, everything is scaled to match the lowercase of the main font, which is free serif, so that everything looks extremely uniform and nice to read. So that's what you want to do with. That's what you can do with this. Just a couple of final words on this. I want to thank once again Juan Manuel Macia and Gianjuan for what they have shared. And I also want to thank everybody for productive contributions to the discussion. I'm saying this because I think I need a longer rest, and I'm going to be leaving the feature font untouched for a couple of months so that people can the feature branch untouched for a couple of months to see if people want to use it and how they want to use it. And then maybe in the future we can discuss if we want to integrate it or not in org mode, or if people need it in org mode. Now, questions, comments.
I think there was one question on Etherpad. I didn't say anything else.
Video for LaTeX. I think that goes beyond fonts, right? So, someone is asking, what about how's about video, mainly MP4 support on OX LaTeX? I started with presentations with many videos. This is something that I really pushed me back using OX LaTeX. What I would what I would say to this is, I mean, this goes beyond what we're discussing here with fonts. I would advise you to go and get the same or have the same thing that I did, which was first of all try to write it in LaTeX, and then once you have the minimal working examples, you can get the LaTeX parts integrated into your mode presentation. That's what I've been doing. By the way, I still do it, for example, not in this, but for my lectures, I'm using a lot of ticks to do graphs and animated graphs. And that's begin, export later, and export later. That's what I'm doing.
Videos are generally a bit tricky because you not every viewer will play them. So I think there is something called PDFPC that can that provides LaTeX package where you can include videos and then they can be played through that specific program. And JavaScript embedding that can only be done through Acrobat Reader, which is like also finicky.
Yes.
Yeah.
As you say, there are many things that need to be changed. And but I mean, it's always a thing of taking it and trying to see what you can do and what the specifics are. Maybe this can be done with Acrobat and with a couple of extra packages, and who knows? And you can always keep it as LaTeX fragments inside org, I think. Any other questions?
That might be perfect time for lunch then.
Yeah, for you. For me, it's already like supper.
Thank you so much. Again, if people want to continue, you can continue here, or you can continue the pad or the email, or whatever.
I think
the best.
Yeah, I think supper is the right time for me. So,
all right. Thank you, Pedro. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow then. Bye bye.
Thanks.